Welcome back to the Artie Lange Show. Artie Lange here with the great Harry Shearer. So okay, I want to tell you this on the air because there's no better person on the planet to get a reaction from for this. Okay, so I had a meeting with Lorne Michaels in 1998.
How long did he keep you waiting?
Okay, I had done 2 years on the sketch comedy show Mad TV, right, which tried to go up against SNL. It was a success in the sense that it stayed on for 14 years, but it never really made a dent. But I did 2 years on that show, and I got a reel tape out of it with a bunch of different characters. That was pretty good, you know. It was getting me work, and I had a development deal.
It was getting you laid, more important.
Getting me laid, which is even a harder thing to do, especially at the time. And I did a movie with Norm Macdonald from SNL, a buddy comedy. Chris Farley was in it. And I was doing a movie with David Spade in Los Angeles. My agent at William Morris at the time calls me up and says, listen, in the middle of shooting this is in the spring of 1998, says, Lorne Michaels is in town. You have to go to his office at Paramount Studio. Now, this is the middle of, we're shooting. I had to wear a wig in the movie. We're shooting the movie. And he said, you have to get there by 5 o'clock. It's 3 o'clock, and I'm out by, like, Manhattan Beach. And they said, you got to get to Paramount. And they tell Spade he's got to give you the time off because Lorne says, the way he's talking, he might want to put you on the show on Saturday Night Live. And so
he might also want to send you to the moon.
Right. So I go to Spade and I say, Spade, can you give me the time off? So they move some stuff around and he lets me go. But Spade, knowing him, goes, he might just be messing with you. And I'm like, why? And the thing to me that was so crazy was, why would he mess with me? Like, who am I?
Because he can.
Right, exactly. I mean, maybe that was it. So I'm like, okay. So I tear this wig off my head. I take a shower in my trailer with the water pressure in a trailer. Never a good thing. Me and a water pressure. And I get in my rented car and I drive like crazy.
A million miles to
get there by 5 o'clock. I get to Lorne's office by 5 o'clock. Real intimidating on the Paramount lot. So he's got this beautiful blonde assistant, this girl. Okay. And I get there and I'm at 5 o'clock. I'm sitting there. Now 5:15. The phone rings, and the girl, the assistant, answers the phone, and then she hangs it up, and she gets on the intercom. She goes, Lorne, and they go, okay, I swear to God, these are the three names, she said. The first name was it. She goes, Lorne, I have Martin Short on the phone, and Artie Lange is waiting for you. Okay, and I'm fine. Okay, whatever. So, okay, I'll get done with that. Fine. 5:30, the phone rings again. Okay. I swear to God. She goes, now he's a half hour late. She goes, Lorne, I have Steve Martin on the phone.
And Artie Lange.
And by the way, Artie Lange is still waiting.
Yeah.
Okay. Not even kidding a little bit. 5:45, 45 minutes.
Paul Simon?
Okay. Even better. Better.
Mike Nichols?
Okay, phone rings. Lorne, I have Paul McCartney on the phone. And Artie Lange is still waiting. Okay. So now at 6:10, an hour and 10 minutes later, Lorne comes out of the office. He never looks at me. He never looks at me in the face. I'm standing 6 feet from him. He's looking at
You're easy to miss.
Right. If I'm in a room and it's just you, if it's just me, you, and a beautiful assistant, I'm easy to miss. Right. So he's just looking at the assistant, nodding his head like in some knowing way, and then without looking at me, he's still looking at her. He goes, Artie, come in. Okay. Now I walk in and it's this huge, like, he probably decorated it in the most intimidating way because it's an enormous space, and in the middle of the office are one section of a couch and the other section where you sit right in the middle. So when you're sitting there speaking to him, you can see the enormity of the office, So I sit there and he goes, I saw your tape. He goes, you're quite good. I said, oh, thank you. He goes, how come we didn't see you a couple of years ago? And I go, I don't know.
The question is, how did you screw up?
Right. I said, Lorne, listen, honestly, I was a longshoreman 3 years ago. I said, I didn't know I could get an audition for Saturday Night Live. My agent never told me. I got offered a job on a sketch show. I was making $10,000 a year. This was $10,000 a week. I took the job. He goes, oh, yeah. Well, there's three parts of an actor's life. And again, now, now listen, to this day, I don't know why he said this. He goes, there's three parts of an actor's life. The first part is, who's Artie Lange? The second part is get me Artie Lange. The third part is who's Artie Lange. You understand that, right?
He screws up the joke. Right, by the way, the joke is get me a young Artie Lange.
Right, get me a young Artie Lange. And I thought it also was get me an Artie Lange type. Is that right? Okay, right. So he said the third part is
it's like Lorne telling you the 5 stages of grief, and they're denial, and denial.
Right. So literally, he says, but he just goes, and he goes, the third part is who's Artie Lange.
Yeah.
And now, Harry, now picture this. I'm 29 years old at the time, and I'm like, I don't know what to do right now. Should I punch him in the face?
Yeah.
I don't know what to do. And I'm like, okay. I felt like saying, okay, what stage am I in? What am I doing here? So he goes, there's a pause, and he goes, it's your dream to do the show, right? Now I never heard a more arrogant statement in my life.
The answer to that is no, sir. It's just a dream to be sitting here on this freaking couch, being insulted by you. That's my dream.
I gotta tell you
the
something.
rest is gravy.
You're talking. My agents all said I should have been that way because now the ass
nobody
kissing
can do that.
No, right. The ass kissing thing to me doesn't come easy anyway. But I didn't know what to say. So
it's built to be intimidating.
Right.
It's built to make you go, what the hell is the answer?
Yeah, I'm freaking out a little bit. So he goes, it's your dream to do the show, right? So I said, how do I say this without sounding like just an ass-kissing jerk-off? And I go, well, listen, I think anybody from my age range would say they'd want to hear Don Pardo say their name at the beginning of Saturday Night.
Artie Lange.
Right, exactly. So that's how I said yes to that question.
Yeah.
He paused and he went, that's not possible. I mean, think of it. The guy said. The guy wanted me to admit something was my dream,
and then
to tell me it wasn't possible.
Yeah.
Now, Harry, I am like literally. I was 2 years on Mad TV. I had done a movie that nobody had seen with Norm. I had a stand-up career. I'm shooting a movie with nobody knew who I was. The fact that this billionaire, legendary guy is doing this to me now. It was the first real Hollywood experience where I said, "Wow, this town. These cliches are true."
But he's not Hollywood. He's New York.
Right, exactly. Well, he comes off as he's the most cosmopolitan guy on the planet. That's what he wants to be.
Yeah, exactly.
So.
By the way, your dream could come true. Don Pardo worked for Scale. You could hire him to say Artie Lange.
Norm Macdonald has a story. Literally, he went in to say hi to Don Pardo. Don Pardo had a stack like the size of the Chrysler building of residual checks for voiceovers that he was he was stamping. He had a stamp.
Stamping.
Norm, how are you? Like this. Like. So after I say that and he goes, that's not possible. I go, now there's another long pause. And I go, okay, why? He goes, you see, I like to introduce people to the country. When I try to introduce people to the country who've already been introduced, like Janine Garofalo and Mark McKinney, it doesn't work. He goes, you've been on Mad TV, you're in the movie with Norm. The country already knows who you are.
I don't get credit for you. That's what he's saying.
That's what he's saying. So then he says to me, he goes, perhaps one day you could host the show. He goes, but
that's not possible.
Well, he said to me, he goes, you'd have to be in a real big hit movie, though.
Yeah.
And I go, yeah. And he goes, and that hasn't happened yet. I mean, I thought like you were going to walk out and go, you're in a sketch or something.
Yeah.
So
glad you made the long drive. Right.
So I said, but what I had to do to get there, I had to ask Spade for time off.
Yeah.
And I broke all sorts of laws getting there. So I said, so why am I here? He goes, listen, next week there's a Molly Shannon does a character on the show, the Catholic schoolgirl, and there's a movie about it. And I think we're calling it Superstar. I think you'd be right for a part in that movie. I called you here to ask you if you wanted to audition for a part in that film. And I'm like, really? Of course I'd audition. I would love to. He goes, great. So we'll.
That's not possible.
He goes, my assistant will call you and we'll set something up for next week. I go, great. He goes, well, great. Well, thanks for coming in. And he shook my hand and I left. Now I went back and I told Norm and Spade. Norm was so funny. Norm laughed and he went, he was laughing with you. And I'm like, and I said to him, can you explain to me why he would do that? He goes, and what you just said, like, I guess because he can. Like, maybe because you were on Mad TV. You did the movie I did with Norm was with a rival producer of his.
Look, what most people don't know about Lorne was that he was a performer.
Right.
He had a show in Canada called the Lorne and Hart Terrific Hour. And
is that really true?
Yes,
Terrific
it is.
Hour.
The Lorne and Hart Pomerantz was his partner. The Lorne and Hart Terrific Hour. So that's the creativity you're dealing with. But and a guy who I don't know if it's the world or the business says, as a performer,
yeah.
Now you're in a position of power over performers. There's a huge degree.
It's like that nerd who becomes a cop.
Yeah.
Right.
I get to do to you what they did to me.
Yeah, no, it makes sense.
And I've just been doing Nixon in this TV series, and the idea of somebody whose appetite whose reservoir of resentment and whose appetite for revenge is both bottomless.
And even a guy
It's
he
familiar
never,
to me.
and even a guy he never met like me, who's nothing in show business. Literally, I was nothing. I mean, just to mess with me.
Yeah, but just look. I was at the show for a year when he was there, and I found myself out at dinner with the few friends I had at the show.
Right.
And I realized we spend almost all of our dinners talking about not comedy, not what's going on in the news.
Lauren.
We talk about Lauren.
Yeah.
That's what he wants.
And he won.
And here you are.
So, no, you're right.
talking about
We're
Lauren.
sitting, we're
He
sitting
wins
there talking.
tonight.
Well, the way I kind of got him back, and this is very little, but I did get called for that audition the next week for Superstar with Molly Shannon.
Yeah.
So
you were great in that.
I go in, and there's one kid in the waiting room for the same part.
Yeah.
And it's David Faustino, who played the kid in Married with Children, you know, the young boy.
Yeah.
Okay. He was in there with me, and I had met him a couple times at Fox parties, and one of the most,
those are the
one
best
of the most,
parties.
Yeah, one of the most annoying people I've ever met. He was like a rapper and stuff like that, but and thought he was hilarious. So I'm going in before him for the same part. I go in, Lauren's not there. It's a producer who's a blonde woman, and the director, and a person operating a camera. And I go in, and while they're rolling the camera, they expect me to start doing the scene. And I said, listen, I'm not even going to audition. And they're like, what are you talking about? I said, I didn't realize David Faustino was up for this part. And they said, what are you talking about? I said, have you ever met him? I said, he's the funniest guy I've ever known. So this would be a waste of my time. I'm not going to waste your time and my time. So just give it to David Faustino. Because I've been in a room with him. The guy just is the funniest person alive. And they're sort of looking at each other like, what are you talking about? I said, I'm not going to audition because you didn't tell me he was going to be here. This is actually embarrassing for me. And they said, you're kidding me. And I said, no. And I put the script down and I walked out.
Wow.
So that's on tape. I never actually auditioned.
Wow, good for you.
And I walked out and I shook hands with Faustino. I haven't seen him since. But guess who got the part? Will Ferrell. Who was on the show with
Yeah, of course. And who probably had the part all along.
Right, exactly.
But you know, I tell this to friends of mine who and very close friends of mine who are having problems in the business.
Yeah.
The most powerful word for talent to utter in show business is no.
Yeah, no, exactly. And that's what I felt. I got a little bit of that back.
That's right. You got a little of your power
Just
back.
a little bit of that.